Chapter 8 Network Effects. Network effects occur when the value of a product or service increases as the number of users expands. This is also known as network externalities or Metcalfe's law. In general, most products are not subject to network effects. When in place, the presence of network effects influences whether consumers choose one product or service over another. Products and services subject to network effects create value through exchange. Staying power is based upon the long-term viability of a product or service. Staying power is bolstered by networks with the greatest number of users. Switching costs are incurred when moving from one product to another. For example, if you relocate from one town to another, there is the cost of moving, selling and buying property, taxes, and fees. These represent the switching cost. High switching costs discourage change and lead to increased staying power. Companies strive to strengthen the value of network effects as a strategic asset. This value increases if users are less likely to move to a rival. Let's consider the origins of value. Total cost of ownership, or TCO, is an economic measure of the full cost of owning a product. If you consider the car you drive, the total cost of ownership starts when you buy the car. But the costs don't stop there. You pay for gas, insurance, parking, oil changes, and other maintenance. All of these expenses add up to the total cost of ownership. Consumers should also consider complementary benefits. These exist when products or services add additional value to the primary product or service that makes up a network. Using our car example, complementary benefits might include dealer service. Value can be created by establishing platforms. Platforms allow for the development and integration of software products and other complementary goods. Value-adding sources work together to reinforce one another to make the network effect even stronger. For example, each add-on of an Apple iOS product enhances the value of choosing it over a rival. We consider one-sided versus two-sided markets. One-sided markets derive most of their value from a single class of users. In this case, benefits are derived by interaction among members of a single class of participants. Consider messaging apps where everyone sends messages to and from others. Two-sided markets are comprised of two distinct categories of participant. Both groups need to deliver value for the network to function. One advantage to a two-sided market comes from the cross-site exchange. The result is that an increase in the number of users on one side of the market, creating a rise in the number on the other side. For example, after implementing payment apps, consumers are attracted to the site since there are more sellers offering online payment. At the same time, more merchants are drawn to the site due to the number of active customers. How are these markets different? Network markets experience early, fierce competition caused by the existence of a positive feedback loop inherent in network effects. Firms are aggressive in the early stages, but once a leader becomes clear, new adopters begin to favor the leading product over rival products. The fact that users flock to a single company can create a monopoly. The network market environment can skew the market in favor of one dominant firm or standard. These markets exhibit monopolistic tendencies where one firm dominates all rivals. A monopoly, by definition, is a market where there are many buyers but only one dominant seller. Similarly, an oligopoly is like a monopoly, but is dominated by a small number of powerful sellers. If you look at the companies that dominate their markets, would you consider Facebook or Amazon to be monopolies? Markets with network effects benefit by moving early. The first competitor can swing the network effects in their favor, creating a snowball effect. For example, when Yahoo Auctions launched in Japan, they moved quickly into this untapped market. Similarly, PayPal subsidized product adoption to accelerate acceptance and initial growth. Finally, Skype, Facebook feeds, and Uber leveraged viral promotion by utilizing their large customer base and social media. The result is no or low-cost advertising to a targeted audience. Markets with network effects can expand by redefining the market to bring in new categories of users or through convergence. For example, Apple brought together a number of existing capabilities into a single device, the iPhone. This is an example of convergence. At the same time, they expanded their market by adding capabilities not previously seen. Convergence occurs when two or more markets, once considered distinctly separate, begin to offer similar features and capabilities. Smartphones combine wireless phone calls, digital photos, GPS mapping, web browsing, and other capabilities, for example. Markets with network effects may also see envelopment. This occurs when one market attempts to conquer a new market by making it a subset, component, or feature of its primary offering. This is seen in the previous smartphone example. Firms with network effects have to decide whether or not to work together. A firm with an early start and a unique offering may create proprietary capability that can block the competition. On the other hand, firms may form alliances and partnerships to converge on key platforms or architectures. Originally, banks set up their own networks of ATMs. Now you can go to almost any ATM to access your cash. Other examples include the variety of standards established to allow cross-platform communication on the Internet. Markets with network effects may take advantage of distribution channels. Sun bundled Java with Netscape, which resulted in widespread adoption of this new programming language. I'm sure that Java is loaded onto your computer right now. Similarly, Microsoft bundled their new media player with the Windows operating system. Another approach is to seed the market with complements. For example, Sony offered PS3 game systems at a loss and ended up dominating the market with the added benefit of pushing their Blu-ray digital video standard to the forefront. Another growth model includes encouraging the development of complementary goods. For example, both Apple and Android devices benefit by the app development community that has been nurtured by the companies. Similarly, FB Fund is a seed fund providing microseed investments for companies developing websites and applications related to Facebook. One way that markets with network effect build upon past success is to maintain backward compatibility. Companies make sure that previously purchased products are functional with future releases and enhancements. It's not as if a company is starting over. At that point, switching to a competitor's platform would be easier. For example, Spotify is compatible with previous iTunes purchases, so users do not have to pay twice to move to the new app. One issue is that the move to new technology may be limited by the past product implementations. One way around this is through adapters. Apple's Mac OS X Rosetta translation software allows users to buy the latest technology from Apple and still use previously purchased applications. For markets with network effects, rivals who are late to the market may need to create compatibility with the larger existing networks of their competitor. For example, Apple's move to support PC applications on their hardware. Despite limited growth, PCs still maintain roughly 90% market share. Incumbents in markets with network effects work to block access to rivals. One way to do so is by constantly innovating so that rivals are constantly chasing the leader. For example, Apple blocks access to its systems by embedding key software into their hardware and releasing a steady stream of updates. The result is that creation of Mac clones would be difficult and those products would be short-lived. Large established firms often make pre-announcements of new products and features to stir up customer interest in advance. With a strong initial customer base and brand loyalty, Apple is able to create interest through new product announcements as they have done with many products, including the Apple Watch. There can be a downside to the use of pre-announcements. The Osborne effect occurs when a company experiences a sharp and detrimental drop in the sales of current offerings after the early announcement of future products. Even with Apple devices, we often find the previous model available at deep discounts after the next model is announced. Another issue can occur when the popularity of a product or service floods the market and may cause issues. These congestion effects can lower the value of a product or service. If a popular new product is announced, the infrastructure to support it may not have enough bandwidth to support the sudden demand. For example, the initial rollout of the Affordable Care Act overloaded the websites supporting the new process. This completes our discussion on network effects. Next, we will turn to disruptive technologies and their impact on business.